most important point this POSH Act emphasizes on is the impact. See, workplace
Right.
harassment में क्या होता है कि many of the activities or the actions are not intended with harassing the colleague or the co-employee sexually, right? What happens is many of them are not aware or not mindful or sensitive to workplace ethics, are not sensitive to boundaries.
Hello everyone, I am Jitendra Singh. I welcome you to read my story where I interview authors, speakers, coaches, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and more. Today I have with me Miss Mahalakshmi Rajagopal. She is a holistic wellness professional and energy healer, certified POSH trainer, and a certified social auditor. Has offered her services as a counselor in school, colleges, and different cities. With an experience of 25 plus years, she founded Sahayam Intervention Center and Sahayam Charitable Trust in 2014. The important services of those two organizations were assessment, counseling, therapy, workshops, courses in counseling, training for students to be beneficial counselor, and various sanitization programs. She has been working passionately in the area of child sexual abuse with a special focus on sensitizing the masses. As a firmly believer of education in the key special focus on sanitizing the masses, as she firmly believes education is the key heal many evil issues and practices. She has also created a document and guidelines for caregivers to prevention of child sexual abuse, and till date distributed soft and hard copies of manual throughout the country. She presently offered individual consultations and training through virtual mode as well as direct mode. As a counselor, the area of her expertise are adolescents, parent counseling, young adults, relationship and marital counseling. In 2018, she was ranked as one of the top 10 counselors in Delhi by an online survey forum. She follows an eclectic approach, building therapies in the best interest of clients. She also coaches clients suffering from very severe illness to transcend to the state of acceptance and facilitates inner journey, thus enabling them transcend from why me to so what if me. Presently in Hyderabad, Mahalakshmi is also certified POSH trainer and regularly conducts sanitization programs, creating awareness on prevention of workplace sexual harassment. She is also a guest faculty in various institutions and organizations in different parts of the country, providing training and behavioral change and inner transformation. Today, she will be discussing with us about her life journey. So let us hear from her. Welcome, Mahalakshmi. The platform is open, and now over to you.
Very good. Good morning to you, Jitendra ji, and I'm grateful and thankful to you for reaching out to me and giving me this opportunity to share my journey with the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are really doing noble work for benefit of others. So it would be privileged to have you here. So first thing I'd like to know from you is how did your past life has affected the person who you wanted to be in your life and what you are?
My past helped me to develop my grit, my resilience. My past experiences in both personal as well as professional life, in fact, intensified my faith in the universe. And most importantly, it also helped me to develop faith in relationships. And last but not the least, in my own self. That it's very important for me. There is a purpose for me in this life, and that is why I exist here. And so it's not just a concept of just mere existence. It's about what I am contributing towards my existence on this planet, for the society, for the community. This is what my past has taught me.
That's really wonderful. And we always have certain thoughts about career options we want to choose in our life. So, on that note, what were your thoughts when you were growing?
So, my thoughts were, even as I was an adolescent, my thoughts were on something related to working with people. And that is what led me to choose psychology. And then later on, it was into psychiatric social work. And I did have my dreams or aspirations of doing my PhD, but that was till now that has not been accomplished. I wouldn't say I have not accomplished. We never know what the future has in store for us. And I thoroughly enjoyed learning and being in this space right from my undergraduation, and that is what took me forward into the field of counseling.
Great, that's really wonderful. And if I talk about things you are passionate about in your life, what are those?
So, if you look at it from the professional space, it is definitely healing others and facilitating their holistic empowerment. When I'm talking about my personal life, I'm very passionate about music, cooking, gardening.
So, and that's really wonderful. Professionally, you are like working on helping others, and on the other side, you are like personally working on your own self. That
Absolutely.
is a really wonderful combination, because what happens is we ignore one part, which is ourself. So, it's really
True.
important to work on that as well.
When I say healing others is not just from illness. So if I am talking about creating an awareness, and I tirelessly work towards creating an awareness. So if I talk about creating an awareness, and I have brought in some level of awareness in the person in front of me, he or she need not necessarily be my client. Even then, that is healing. A person who has been, say, for example, this is something which I come across a lot. A person who has been complaining or judging another family member, and when they share it with me, and I try to help them to understand, is the person going through a mental illness which has not been diagnosed? And this is something which is very common in our society, even amongst educated families. And if I
Right.
have been able to steer them towards thinking in this space, that is also a space, a level of healing, and this is what I'm very passionate about.
And if I talk about your
Thank you.
vision, mission, and goal in your life for next 5 to 10 years from now, what do you think that is?
So my vision, I do not know how practical it is, or would you consider it practical, but my vision is a society that welcomes healing techniques as part of mental health intervention, a society that is more open and accepting of the disabilities and enabling children to flourish in spite of the disabilities, and a more sensitive society to various forms of abuse. I am not talking about a society, I'm consciously not mentioning that my vision is about a society free from abuse, because it is a work in progress. We just need to move towards that. So the first step would be being more sensitive, being accepting, and the more sensitive we are, then automatically we put in some kind of a restraint. तो हमको लगता है कि नहीं, अच्छा ये abuse category में आती है क्या, then मुझे नहीं करना है, मुझे उसको साथ नहीं देना है. Even if we reach there, I feel we would have really transcended a lot. My mission
Correct.
is to create awareness and educate people about healing techniques, about invisible disabilities, and different forms of abuse. I would like to go a little more in detail about this. When I'm repeating about healing technique. So we as a country have very ancient traditions, and unfortunately what happens is, and even healing techniques have been part of our ancient traditions. The only limitation that we have had is we do not have sufficient or efficient documentation of the ancient healing techniques.
Correct.
And sadly, what happens is we tend to disregard them. Even today,
Yes.
there are many, many people who look down upon healing techniques such as chakra healing, pranic healing, and Reiki. Whereas the universities in the West are having them as part of credit courses for various streams and various specializations. So it takes a lot for some other country to discover our traditions and apply them, whereas we seem to be disregarding them. And my mission is about educating people about the healing techniques. Just because we have not done enough research on that doesn't make it a non-scientific technique. They are areas where we have not done sufficient research. So,
Right.
and healing techniques are very powerful, very effective, and they can do wonders if they are incorporated and integrated with mental health. And that is what is my mission all about. My professional goal is to continue my services to the masses in the form of counseling, therapy, healing, and training. My personal goal is to continue to be reflective, consciously evolve by working on my limitations and challenges.
Right, wonderful. And you rightly pointed out we have so many healing modalities, so many healing techniques which were used in past, but these days we have forgotten them because of no proper research or maybe no proper documentation onto it, and that is the reason why we are facing challenges in acceptability. And on the other side, if we see other countries like West, they are following those techniques and like modalities as a healing modalities, and they have developed proper courses onto it.
Yes. They offer them as supportive ancillary courses, credit courses, and यहाँ से जो गया है उसको वहां पे वैल्यू मिल रही है, लेकिन यहाँ पे वैल्यू नहीं है.
Correct. And there are not much organization working on that research and development of these techniques. But if you see in other part of the world, they have started building on research centers or started doing research on these type of techniques or modalities.
Yes, even medical hospitals are doing research there and they are incorporating them. यहाँ पे there's hardly anything. Like अगर आप को करना चाहते हैं something on pranic healing, something on aura, something on acupressure, यहाँ पे openings है ही नहीं हमारी country में. It is not
True.
welcome. And very few colleges are at least calling us as guest lecturers to talk about aura and chakras etc. लेकिन उसको अपनी करिकुलम में इंटीग्रेट करना वो तो अभी भी दूर की बात है.
Rightly pointed out, वो बहुत जरूरी भी है, but the thing is वो initiative की कमी है.
जी, so that is my mission कि I have no qualms in sharing with my clients कि मैं integrate करती हूँ. My therapies are not purely only CBT or only psychotherapy. I do integrate healing techniques. उसकी techniques को मैं integrate करती हूँ during my counseling and therapy.
Right. So you use different modalities to help the
Yes,
client.
absolutely.
Wonderful. So if I talk about your work and experiences, like how you started your career, what all you did so far, and what you doing these days.
Right. So as I just mentioned in the beginning of our interview, I started with my, in those days, you just take up your UG not with a very clear vision of what you want to end up being as a professional. So, but then psychology intrigued me. I was very much interested and more curious to know more about it. And that was when I came across medical and psychiatric social work as a stream. So I went ahead and completed my master's in that because that gives you more options of fieldwork experiences and placements in institutions, which is a hands-on experience. And that my first job, which was on campus placement, was with a NGO which was practicing drugless. It was a drugless therapy center. It was practicing complementary healing techniques. So my exposure to complementary healing techniques was in the year 1992. So long ago, when I took up this job in this center as a social worker, वहाँ पे कुछ techniques मैंने on the job सीखी, लेकिन वो सब non-structured form में सीख लिया था. तो but then that was very interesting. Foot reflexology, polarity therapy, junction 2, etc. थोड़ा सा pranic healing का भी exposure तब हुआ था. And उसके बाद after a few years, I had moved cities because of marriage, and I moved to different cities. And I did take up counseling as my in a part-time counseling, and I was doing my private practice जहाँ पे भी मैं थी. From 2000 I started learning the healing techniques in a very structured form from the Pranic Healing Foundation in Andhra Pradesh, and उसके बाद उसमें teaching का certificate भी लिया था. In the meantime, as a school counselor, I was with schools which mostly had first generation learners, and वहाँ की exposure plus because of my husband working in the Indian Navy, I was having an exposure of meeting sailors' families in my counseling space. That really gave me a lot of empathy, or helped me to understand, the mental health issues and the emotional struggles of people from the lower economic strata. And वहाँ की issues, वहाँ की dealings that is not cannot be handled. This is my experience. Cannot be handled only from the perspective of a psychologist. So that was where my social worker perspective also helped me a lot in helping these children and their families, because their problems are multiple in different ways. And I worked in different schools, different colleges as a school counselor, college counselor, and going on, all these things helped me to reflect a lot, and I realized there was so much in need, and there's a limit to what you can do when you are working under an organization. I did have a small stint with the Ministry of Women and Child Welfare also, and there's a limitation when you're working in an organization or an institution. तभी मुझे लगा कि मुझे कुछ शुरू करना है, and that was when I started Sahayam Intervention Center and Sahayam Charitable Trust in the year 2014. So Sahayam Intervention Center में हमारे पास काफी services थे, individual counseling, healing, training, assessments, remedial education, workshops, ट्रेनिंग ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स, इंटर्नशिप्स, तो काफी कुछ कर रहे थे हम. वर्कशॉप्स वी वर कंडक्टिंग इन डिफरेंट cities also. We were also conducting training in the area of counseling. जब ये स्टूडेंट्स आते थे मेरे पास, तब मुझे पता चला कि इवन पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन लेवल पे उनको उतनी थियोरेटिकल नॉलेज काफी है, लेकिन उनको ये समझ में नहीं आता था कि एग्जैक्टली काउंसलिंग क्या है, किस तरह से करना है. एंड दैट यूज्ड टू रियली मेक मी फील वेरी अनकंफर्टेबल कि ये हम 5 साल ये बच्चे पढ़ाई किया है, लेकिन उनको ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि प्रैक्टिकली क्या क्या चीज के ऊपर हमको फोकस करना है, व्हाट इज इम्पोर्टेंट, व्हाट इज एथिक्स, ethical space. So that is when I developed a course, and I was running this certificate course in counseling. This was from 2015 to 2019, and in my charitable trust the main focus was creating awareness. So creating awareness, yes, my experience in school counseling helped me to understand that aaj tak even teachers as well as parents are unable to recognize, understand or identify the invisible disabilities in children in mainstream school. हम लोग काफी कुछ कर रहे हैं. If we look, we are definitely progressing. I'm not saying we are not progressing with regarding our awareness. लेकिन एक स्ट्राटा ऑफ बच्चे हैं, जो बच्चे को इनविजिबल डिसेबिलिटीज तो है, मतलब दे डू हैव अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ ADHD या लर्निंग डिसेबिलिटीज, लेकिन या इवन दे आर माइल्ड ऑन द स्पेक्ट्रम, बट उनकी इंटेलिजेंस लेवल काफी हाई है, सो दे डू फिट इन टू दी मेन स्ट्रीम स्कूल. लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम दे बिकम अनफिट देयर बिकॉज ऑफ दीज लिमिटेशंस, जिसको हम अडल्ट केयर गिवर्स ने आइडेंटिफाई नहीं किया है, जिसकी वजह से उनको वहां पे तकलीफ होती है. सो व्हेन आई रियलाइज दिस ड्यूरिंग माय different stints as a school counselor and visiting school counselor, I started in my charitable trust, we started having awareness programs about these things. Teachers को identify करने के लिए hints देना, उनको checklist बनाकर देना, उनको training करवाना. So this was one of the areas, and another important area of work was creating awareness on the non-touch forms of child sexual abuse. हमारे awareness and my focus was on the caregivers. जब आप child sexual abuse को लेते हैं, immediately the talk comes is, क्या आपने बच्चों को सिखाए हैं कि कौन सी क्लास में बच्चा पढ़ता है, उनको समझाया है, उनको सिखाया है. उनको जितने भी हम सिखाएंगे, जब तक हम अडल्ट उनके केयर गिवर्स को ये रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, अकाउंटेबिलिटी, जानकारी, आज भी आई हैव कम अक्रॉस सो मेनी पेरेंट्स ऑफ बॉयज जिनको पता नहीं है कि बॉयज के साथ भी चाइल्ड सेक्सुअल अब्यूज हो सकती है. सो माय मिशन और माय जर्नी was to create awareness amongst caregivers. So when I used to approach schools, I've even approached corporates. तो corporates में the HR would ask me, हमें child sexual abuse की sessions की क्या जरूरत है? So I used to say, आपके पास parents है, आप लोग adults हो, आपकी families में बच्चे हैं. When I approached schools, the schools would ask me, आप good touch bad touch नहीं लेना चाहते हैं, आप बच्चों से मिलना नहीं चाहते हैं? I would say no, मुझे teacher से मिलना है, मुझे parents से मिलना है.
Because सबसे पहले awareness तो parents और teachers को होना चाहिए,
बहुत जरूरी है. एंड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट कि हमारी जिम्मेदारी है, हमारी अकाउंटेबिलिटी है. वी नीड टू बी रिस्पॉन्सिबल अडल्ट्स सो दैट आवर चिल्ड्रन आर प्रोटेक्टेड एंड केयर्ड फॉर. So, even this used to be a challenge. Teachers समझते नहीं थे, principals समझते नहीं थे कि why we want to give sessions, and we wanted to talk about non-touch forms of abuse. So this was these were the objectives, and this was the work that we were doing with Sahayam Charitable Trust, and of course lot of sessions on POSH, prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. And with the COVID, Sahayam को close करना पड़ा because of the various lockdowns, and फिलहाल from then onwards, 2020 onwards, आज तक I offer my private consultations and training programs online and offline in different cities as well as in Hyderabad.
Okay, तो Sahayam दोबारा शुरू कब कर रहे हैं फिर आप?
That भगवान जाने.
नहीं, but the thing is, you have done so much of a work on that welfare of people. So I think you should start it again. And my good wishes with you is you start it again and with a bigger vision and with a bigger team, so that more and more people could be connected and they could be aware of the things.
I'm so grateful for your wishes, and I really hope they come true. I'm definitely open to meeting people who can, join with me and help me to start it again. That would be a wonderful and a dream come true.
Great. So if I talk about your journey, personal and professional both, there would be some important learnings, lessons. So, what are the
Yes.
most important lessons from there?
Lesson one is, irrespective of whatever has happened, different challenges have happened in my personal life as well as my professional life. Lesson one is gratitude. Gratitude for even those things have taught us some lessons. We had a huge catastrophe in our personal life sometime in 2006, and I learned humility from there. I learned gratitude because in spite of all of that, my family and I were safe and alive. So gratitude at every step for everything that we have received in different forms. Gratitude, in spite of the pandemic, my immediate family, my extended family, we have not lost anyone to COVID. I'm truly grateful. With regarding my professional life also, I'm very grateful to the kind of mentors I've had, the teachers I have met, the great inspirations I've had from different professionals as well as personal. Another important thing which I have learned is, the important lesson is, anything and everything, whichever happens with a purpose.
Correct.
Even if I had to close down Sahayam, probably even today, it's almost more than 2 years. Yeah, it's going to be 2 years, right? With the April 23, it will be 2 years. Even with, though till now we really do not understand the purpose behind it having got to shut down. The universe surely has a reason for any experience that the universe expects us to go through. So this
Correct.
is a very important lesson, and that faith helps me to stay hopeful and positive.
That is really important. Staying positive and hopeful is the biggest thing any person should go through, because
True.
that gives you courage to move ahead
Yeah.
in life. So that's really wonderful. And you talked about workplace sexual harassment. So
Yeah.
onto it, like the most important thing is we hear about these type of cases, so on so forth. So these type of cases does not start at once immediately. So that took place. They took place to get started, and there are symptoms of it. So what are the symptoms of the same?
So this is a very important, point that you have brought out, and I'm thankful to you for raising it in this interview. Sexual harassment at workplace and other forms of sexual harassment and sexual abuse में बहुत फर्क है. हम लोग को पता है कि when we are talking about workplace sexual harassment, we are not really focusing on rape or molestation or any such instances or experiences. The most important point this POSH Act emphasizes on is the impact. See, workplace
Right.
harassment में क्या होता है कि many of the activities or the actions are not intended with harassing the colleague or the co-employee sexually, right? What happens is, many of them are not aware or not mindful or sensitive to workplace ethics, are not sensitive to boundaries. समझते नहीं है कि हम कितनी दूर तक जा सकते हैं in the form of words, in the form of actions, etc. So many a times I've come across people when they have the complaint has been raised, then the respondent जिसके ऊपर complaint raise किया गया है, उनका first response है, मेरा intention वो नहीं था.
Correct.
And then you have to start off again from psycho education. मतलब उनको समझाना, उनको सिखाना, उनको educate करना. So this is a very very important aspect. So when you talk about what are the symptoms, the first and foremost thing is, are each and every employee, irrespective of the rank, irrespective of the position, are they mindful and conscious about workplace ethics, and are they strictly following the workplace ethics? अगर मुझे पता है कि मुझे एक co-employee से certain personal questions नहीं पूछना चाहिए, and that has to be followed irrespective of day or night,
Correct.
black or white. So your earliest symptom starts from there. Now for the person who's practicing, now what about the others? Now the person who's experiencing it needs also to be very mindful, needs to be very aware कि क्या ये जो सवाल मुझसे पूछा जा रहा है, या मुझे ये जो मैसेज आया हुआ है, या जेस्चर वो कर रहा है, क्या am I okay with this kind of an experience at workplace? Clear
Right.
yes or no होना चाहिए. क्या yes, because we can't all the time. I always say this कि it is not always the fault of the harasser. It is also the fault of the passive bystanders. And majority of the time, आप देखिए, I give this example. अगर 100 people है and group of 100 में, even if 5 people are harassers, आप समझो 5 people are getting harassed. There are the 90 people who are keeping quiet. क्या ये 90 people अगर actively proactive बने, क्या ये harassers को हम stop नहीं कर सकते?
Definitely.
So definitely it is possible. So what is important is everyone, irrespective of this attitude of मेरे साथ नहीं हो रहा है ना तो मुझे क्या है, that attitude has to change. अगर आपको कुछ दिख रहा है, कोई कलीग एक wrong gesture कर रहा है या कोई कलीग एक wrong remark यूज कर रहा है, कोई कलीग उनकी boundaries cross कर रहा है, whether it is happening with you or not, you need to be more proactive. You need to be you need to be the voice. ये नहीं सोचना कि मेरे ये रोल क्या है, मेरा डिपार्टमेंट नहीं है, वो क्या सोचेगा, मेरा फ्रेंड है. नो, दैट इज नॉट व्हाट यू नीड टू थिंक. नाउ कमिंग टू द पर्सन हु इज फेसिंग इट, अगर आप ये बोलते रहेंगे इट इज टाइम, वी आर ऑल वर्किंग. एम्पावरमेंट इज व्हाट? एम्पावरमेंट इज नॉट जस्ट बीइंग फाइनेंशियली इंडिपेंडेंट. एम्पावरमेंट इज ऑल्सो ensuring a safe space wherever you're working. तो अगर आप चुप रहेंगे, even research has says that 90% of the time, if a person being harassed, the so-called victims, express that they are not okay with whatever harassment is happening, 90% of the time the harassers stop. The research says that harassers continue because उनको कुछ मैसेज इन कम्युनिकेशन मिलता ही नहीं है कि उनके एक्शंस या उनके एक्सप्रेशंस गलत है या अनएक्सेप्टेबल है या इनअप्रोप्रिएट. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. अगर हम हम सब कुछ ना मैनेजमेंट के ऊपर, गवर्नमेंट के ऊपर नहीं छोड़ सकते. गवर्नमेंट ने तो हमको ये लॉ दिया है, मैनेजमेंट ने हमको पॉलिसी दिया है, अभी इसको अप्लाई करना, इसको यूज करना हमारी जिम्मेदारी है या हर एक एम्प्लॉय की जिम्मेदारी. सो द मिनट यू फील अनकंफर्टेबल about a comment, about a remark, about a gesture, about a message, about the slang or the jargon being used, about an call which is not necessary but comes in at an inappropriate time, the minute you see it, whether वो आपके साथ हो रहा है या किसी और के साथ हो रहा है, आपकी जिम्मेदारी बनती है, you need to speak up. This is very, very important.
Correct. And you need to tell that person this is not appropriate. You should stop it here.
Absolutely. You need to communicate. The communication has to be very clear.
Because if you don't communicate, that means you accept that.
Yes. You accept it or चलता है, हो रहा है होने दो. If that is the attitude, also the harasser will continue. उनको भी हमको educate भी करना है, उनको awareness भी create करना है.
Correct. He or she will get the feel that the person is okay with the thing.
Absolutely. Yes. Exactly.
Correct. So there should be a clear understanding with the person that this is the limit where I should stop, or the person who is being harassed or molested or being approached in a way which is not appropriate. So that person also needs to understand that this is okay and this is not okay. So up to that level, they should raise their voice. They should tell the person this is not okay.
Correct. Keeping quiet. Many people misunderstand कि अगर हम चुप रहेंगे, उनको जवाब नहीं दिया, उनको respond नहीं किया, उसका मतलब आई एम नॉट इंटरेस्टेड. बट दैट इज नॉट ट्रू. दैट्स अ मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग. अगर आप चुप रहेंगे, दैट मीन्स इट्स ओके.
करेक्ट. सो really important that you raise your voice, you tell that person up to this limit is fine, we are friends, accepted, but beyond this point I'm not accepting this. So clear no.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
That's right.
So you clearly specified that once person is not comfortable, they should tell the other person that this is the limitation and this is the boundary beyond which I'm not comfortable with. So you should stop here. Apart from this thing, what all other precautions a person can take to safeguard his or her interest?
So to safeguard his or her interest, one thing is every person, even when you're joining newly, you need to be aware. You need to know whether there is a internal committee in place in your organization. Come to know about who are the internal committee members, their contact details. Check out if your internal committee is active, and be aware of what is the process of approaching the internal committee. These are things that you need to be very clear about. And every one of us need to be more mindful about what is a workplace ethics. Even if I am aware. See, anybody, when we are talking, or most of us are educated, most of the employees are educated. Even when you look at the lower class or the grade 4 workers, they need to have a basic education. They are all literates at
Correct.
least. So,
Correct.
isn't it? So we need to be very clear about what is a workplace ethics. What are the ethics that my organization expects me to follow? So these are things which we generally tend to bypass. हम छोड़ देते हैं. Even if the HR gives you a handbook या कुछ मेल आ जाती है, हम उसको इग्नोर करते हैं. ओरिएंटेशन में सुनते भी नहीं. And these are things where we need to be very mindful and we need to take care. Now here I would like to add one more important thing कि we are right now talking about POSH policies in the organization. तो वहां पे एक स्ट्रक्चर है. वो स्ट्रक्चर का मतलब आपके पास, जैसे मैंने कहा, एक वर्कप्लेस एथिक्स का हैंडबुक होगा, आपको HR होता है, आपको ये IC है, और ये सारी चीज के बारे में आप जानकारी आप अपने पास रख सकते हो and you can approach. But the government has made this POSH Act which is applicable to all women, all pan India, in the organized as well as the unorganized sector. So this is something which we all need to be be aware of. As an Indian citizen, we all need to know that POSH Act is applicable to any woman with whom we are interacting who's working. For example, एक fruit seller हो सकती है, आपकी सब्जी वाली हो सकती है, आपके घर में काम वाली हो सकती है. So it is very important for every one of us first to be aware कि हमारी work ethics क्या है, उनके साथ किस तरह से हमको बर्ताव करना है, right? And yes, it is also the role of different NGOs to keep these people educated कि अगर उनके साथ कुछ गलत हुआ है, वो किस तरह से अप्रोच कर सकते हैं, कहाँ अप्रोच कर सकते हैं, उनकी अपनी सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट से अपने आप को किस तरह से वो प्रोटेक्ट कर सकते हैं. That is also something which is very important.
And if we talk about workplace, like people who are educated, they at least understand the policies. But when it comes to workers, so they are uneducated, and for them it is difficult to know and explore the things on internet maybe. So for them, it is the responsibility of the organization to teach them, to get them aware about the policies. So and also you rightly pointed out, the policy note comes in a blue moon, like on a mail or maybe through some office circular, but actual things were not being aware of the entire office colleagues. So most of the people are not aware of them actually. So this is also a concern, and it is really important for the organization to talk about these policies at least once in a month, maybe on each forum, on each meetings, so that people could be more aware.
It's very important. And also, according to Government of India, it is mandatory for any organization with minimum of 10 employees to have a POSH policy in place.
Right.
Yeah. And the IC, the internal committee, has to be active. This is very important. And the government expects every organization, and when they're talking about 10 employees, they are talking about any kind of employee, be it contractual, part-time, any kind of daily wages, any kind of employee. And many times there is also this, lack of awareness. I've had some organizations who tell me, अच्छा हमारी organization में women ही नहीं है, तो हमको ये POSH policy की क्या जरूरत है? But the act says that even if there is a woman visitor to your organization, you need to have a POSH Act in place. A policy is important. And most of the organizations, though the act has been formulated with an objective to protect only women, POSH policies in organizations are generally gender neutral.
Right. So they are equally applicable to both.
To all genders.
Right. So coming back to you again, if I talk about you, are you an introvert or an extrovert kind of a person while meeting or facing audience?
See, introvert or extrovert probably doesn't really apply. As a person, I take time to me, in my personal life, I do take time to get to know people or get close to people. And if I bond with somebody, I'm very committed to that relationship, or whether it is a friendship or a neighbor or whatever. When you were talking about my connection with the audience, here I don't think introvert or extrovert applies, but I can say that I'm generally very receptive to the feedback of the audience. I give them a lot of time to interact with me and ask me questions or even question whatever I'm talking about. At the same time, I see to it that my knowledge content for whatever topic with which I'm meeting the audience is sufficient and appropriate. As a result of which, I go there with an aura of confidence
Great.
that I am able to deliver for what I have been called for.
So in simple words, if I'd say on a personal gathering or personal things, you are kind of introvert, but when it comes to your work, you are extremely extrovert.
Sure. Yeah, you can put it that way.
Right. Great. So we always need support from our family, friends, well-wishers. So if I talk about the support you got from people around, so who were the people supported you the most in your journey?
So, since I got married at the age of 24, I would, without any second thoughts, I would give all the credit of support to my husband, because without him, I've just finished my post graduation, and when I was 22, and within 2 years, I've got married. So, my entire career has moved ahead, progressed, or one and only because of my husband's support. And my clients deserve a lot of credit. Earlier, I was till 2014, I worked in different organizations, institutions, and I was having my own private practice in whichever Navy colony we used to stay. And my clients have always encouraged me to found an organization, to start by myself. So they deserve a lot of credit. And as I started my two organizations, my daughters have been very supportive, very understanding, giving me the right kind of inputs with regarding guidance with regarding social media, etc. And they have also been very empathetic when I was busy with my work.
Right.
I also would like to mention my parents have been supportive and encouraging, even way back then when I stepped into a not so known field. So choosing medical and psychiatric social work way back in 1992 was something which was very new to them, and they were supportive and they have been encouraging. So attribute all of these people for wherever I am today.
Great. So we all need motivation and inspiration in our life, and we have different resources to get that. So what are the ways you get your motivation and inspiration from?
See, when I was doing my undergrad, my BA in psychology, I happened to volunteer in SCARF, Chennai. SCARF is a schizophrenic research foundation, which had just been founded way back then in the 1980s. So this was sometime in 88, and the founder is Dr. Sharada Menon, and I have met her during those days as a young undergrad. She is the first woman psychiatrist in our country. I was in awe of her. I admired her not only for her knowledge, for the way she was dealing with the patients, but for her simplicity and her commitment to the field. Because SCARF is a non-profit, and I was in awe with. Another person I would like to offer from where I get my inspiration is Professor Martin Selkiner, founder of Positive Psychology.
Okay.
Last but not the least, my parents. I learned integrity, acceptance, commitment to work, and being true to yourself from my dad. And I learned being mindful of creativity, striving for perfection, and tolerance from my mom.
Wonderful. Parents are always been great teachers.
Yes.
Wonderful. So what is your take on success? How does it look like to you?
So success is something very personal, and each person perceives it in a very unique way. I feel more, accomplishment is more of my success. Anything that I've accomplished, I feel like when I brought out this manual, which is a guide for caregivers about the non-touch forms of child sexual abuse, I felt very accomplished. Some kind of a satisfaction that I've done some bit to the community. And I think that was a success. When I, started this, when I was able to, bring about the application of the CBSE facilities for children with disabilities in the one school as early as 2007-8, it was a huge accomplishment, and I think that was success. So I believe success need not be rated or graded as a milestone to be reached. Just enjoy the journey and accept the falls on the way, which truly help you to reach your destination in a more balanced way. So there are many such experiences, I don't want to call them milestones, which I feel each one of them I would rate it as an accomplishment which can be termed as success.
Great. You rightly pointed out, like when you achieve something, you feel kind of accomplished, and then there is a next journey ahead. So that is part of life life, and that is part of like making small successes towards your destination of life that creates
Absolutely.
magic. Great.
Yeah,
So
very true.
we are moving on to the last part. Any message, advice you would like to share with our audience, viewers, and listeners?
So, irrespective of which field you are in, I would always recommend self work through self reflection, which is very essential for our progress. When you progress in your personally and evolve, that automatically helps you in your professional life. We
Correct.
also need to, at the same time, be mindful that we do not become self critics. Self criticism is harmful, whereas self reflection is progressive. And also accepting and being tolerant of others in the society. Always condemn an action which is inappropriate or unacceptable, but never the person.
Correct.
This is the message that I would like to share.
Really wonderful and important too. So I must say it was really wonderful having you here today, and you have shared so many insights about POSH, child abuse, and so many things. So really important for all of us to know, understand, and being aware of. And I think we should continue this kind of a discussion very often, so that the awareness could be reached to many people. So thank you so very much for your time. It was really wonderful having you here, and I really enjoyed our conversation and looking forward to hear more from you soon again.
Thank you so much, Jitendra ji. It was a pleasure, and I feel privileged for having been invited on this forum. And I would love to really contribute in any form to create awareness in all these areas. It would be a
Sure.
pleasure to be part of that once
Sure.
again.
Also, I will share the social media links of yours so that people can be in touch with you, take your help, guidance, wherever they feel like. And
Sure.
guys, don't forget to check that out too. Thank you so very much, everyone, for watching and listening. I hope you all must have gathered a lot of information and enjoyed watching it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Have a good time. Thank you, and bye bye.